Welcome to the Automation Setup Guide for QuickBooks from Monday.com by Stackfully. There are two ways to create invoices using our app. The first is from this QuickBooks board view, where you can click Create Invoice, or by using custom automations to generate invoices directly from the Draft Invoices board, which is what we'll show you how to set up in this video. This guide focuses on automating invoice creation only. We'll cover customers and products in separate videos. All right, let's set up the board structure first. Each row in this board represents a draft invoice. When you click into a row and open the sub-items, each one represents a line item on that invoice. To begin, I'm going to create a test invoice and open up the sub-items so you can see the structure. Now, let's clean up a couple columns based on the type of QuickBooks account you're using, US or international. If you're using a US-based QuickBooks account, you can go ahead and delete the tax code column. It's only used for international VAT or GST setups. But if you're using QuickBooks International, keep the tax code column and instead delete the taxable column, which is only used in the US. This ensures your invoice data aligns properly with how tax is handled in your version of QuickBooks. Now that our board is set up, let's add the automation. Click the QuickBooks tab at the top of your board. If you don't see this screen, make sure you've completed the initial setup covered in our first video, and the board has a star in the name, which enables the app view. From this screen, we're going to add a recipe that says, when the sync status changes to generate, create an invoice in QuickBooks. Now click on Invoice. This will open up the mapping screen. Here, we match your board's columns to QuickBooks fields. Go ahead and map fields like customer invoice number, invoice date, due date, terms, and any other columns you've configured. Once you've added the mapping, click on the Done button and hit Create Automation to save it. Now let's test it. Back on your board, create a new invoice row in the Draft Invoices table. Give it a name like Invoice 1, and open up the sub-items. Select a customer. If nothing appears, you may need to link your customer column to the customer's board first. Add an invoice number. This can follow any format you use. You can leave invoice number empty if QuickBooks generates an invoice number for you. Enter an invoice date and a due date, or just enter payment terms like net 30, and we'll calculate the due date automatically. You can also fill in optional fields like deposit discount, shipping cost, message on invoice. Now let's cover tax calculation. If you're using a US QuickBooks account, tax is calculated automatically based on your company's tax settings in QuickBooks. In this case, we recommend leaving the tax type set to exclusive. If your company doesn't charge tax at all, you can set the tax type to no tax. For international accounts using VAT or GST, make sure the tax code column is filled out for each line item. Now go to the sub-item. This represents a line item in the invoice. Sub-items in Monday need a name. So let's call this sub-item S1. Then choose a product or service from your Products and Services board. If the connection isn't already made, click Select Board, choose the Products board, and connect it. Leave two-way sync off. Once you select a product, we'll automatically fill in the rate and description from the product record. You can override these if needed. For example, update the quantity or write a custom description. If you don't enter an amount, we'll automatically calculate it by multiplying the quantity with the rate. You can understand what rate would be used by looking in QuickBooks or by viewing the unit rate for the item in the Product and Services board. If you have a US QuickBooks account and charge tax, don't forget to check the taxable box if this line item should include tax. If you have an international QuickBooks account and want to charge VAT or GST, then enter the tax code in the sub-item tax code column. You can choose to enter multiple line items using the same process. In this example, I'm going to just have one line item. Once everything's ready, change the invoice's sync status to generate. You should see a tick once it's successfully created in QuickBooks. The invoice will move to the created invoices group, and you'll find a link in the updates section that opens the invoice directly in QuickBooks. If something goes wrong, the status will show error see updates and will include the error message for troubleshooting. The invoice will also be available here on the Invoices board. If you'd like to edit the invoice, click on the QuickBooks tab on the Invoices board. Then click on the invoice and a pop-up will show on the side. Once you've made any changes, hit the Save button. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or need support, please reach out to us on support@stackfully.co.